Hi there and welcome to this week's edition of Bulls versus Bears. Hello to everyone out there watching, listening or whatever. Just, just the old guard here at the moment. These young blokes these days.
The two old guys, mate.
Someone's got to keep the doors open, while the younger generation, just plod along. Kai's on his boat. Dave's looking at a boat. But, mate, disclaimer.
That's it,
Yep, obviously this is financial advice. Not financial advice, in fact. Definitely not financial advice. This is opinions.
That was a not financial advice.
Yes, thoughts, opinions and thoughts only. Does not pertain to your personal circumstances. Always consult a professional before you make any financial decisions. So now we've got the formalities out of the way. We obviously media this week.
I think it's just been you this week.
Yeah,
Usually we're all on, but
we've had a bit of a rest this week. I think, they went a little bit nuts with us there for a while. I think they probably get a little bit conscious of that sometimes. And yeah, it was just my regular routine spot. It was on with the young fella Ben from Seneca Investment Management.
Yeah, he's sharp, mate. Like him and Luke.
Luke are very sharp, yeah. I've got to say. Props where props should. Definitely now, if I see those guys on the email list beforehand, I'd put in an extra couple of hours. That's for sure. One of my favourite things on AusBiz this week was, thankfully, Andrew Gorgian went to Luke Larrative about Vulcan before he went to me. And this guy has an encyclopedic knowledge of bloody lithium and all its forms and Vulcan and the whole works. And I just sat back and just went, I tend to try and scramble and I just went, I can't add to that. And I just went, whatever he said, I had a buy for it anyway.
Yeah.
And I went, I was a buy before, I'm definitely a buy now. But poor Nadine's, apparently there was issues with Luke's mic, which is why he didn't go first for Vulcan and Energy the other day.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And the bloke on the other side of the desk, Michael Wayne, has turned around and gone, I don't see any value in this, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm watching it, it's like a slow-moving car crash, and then Luke Larrative just smoked him. And look, if you're not, and that's not a shot at Michael Wayne. It's not something that
it's such a big universe of stocks.
That's a really specific thing that if you don't dig into it, you genuinely wouldn't even you wouldn't consider it. So
that's the thing about stocks is that there's a lot of analyst reports out there, but there's a lot that they miss as well.
Absolutely.
In terms of real world, and that's kind of what Luke brought in. I think he's actually even the tool visit or something like that. So,
but one of the ones which I had in the footy special with Koshi and Philip Pepe was Catapult Group, and we gave it a double buy then. We had Hit IQ, which I said Catapult should just buy because they've got a crap marketing department.
I actually remember that because I remember you had the footy special, and I was like, why don't you have a look at Catapult? Because it was one of those ones that...
Well, we suggested it, that's right. They were struggling for stocks.
Yeah, that's right. They were like, well, what's the sport-related stock? And I was like, Catapult?
Yeah.
I just remember that they had a lot of the soccer groups on there before, but obviously they've taken leaps and bounds since then.
Well, yeah, I mean, we had a bit of a watch on it, and obviously it's up 280% since I called it a buy before. I wish we'd got more clients into it. I've got to say, up 280%, but look, the chart looks pretty parabolic.
Yeah,
and he still gave it a buy, and I said, look, I looked at the chart and said, it's just not in my fibre to give a buy to something that's done that. And
he's trying, folks. He's trying.
I'm trying. Look, my research in growth stocks in the US has really opened my eyes quite a bit. But 50 analysts and with companies that report quarterly, a fair bit easier to track. It's a little bit harder to track when you've got 4 growth companies in the whole ASX. They report biannually, and you've only got about 3 analysts bloody covering them.
That's true.
So
that's true.
When there's 500 analysts covering CBA,
and don't forget, I think the S&P's up, 20-odd% the year before, and then we're going to do another 20-odd% this year.
But it was just a really good exercise in being able to, when you've actually got the metrics there and you can see it, you can go back and see it unfolding properly on a quarterly basis where forward guidance actually means something. 6-month forward guidance, it's a long time.
And then, and one thing I will say as well, so I usually use a what I call a breakout screener. So if something makes a new high and there's a pattern that goes along with it in terms of volume, it tends to rally. I started screening the US stocks this week so that I can get some muscle memory and some familiarity. And I was like, wow, when the US stocks break out, they break up more.
Well, Kai and his room full of boffins are getting involved in, Kai, just from an internal aspect, Kai's actually just fully on algo product now. And apart from, which he can obviously do from his boat, but he's had a couple of data scientists cracking onto a few things, and there's been a, it's a joy when you can, when the computer says, yeah, that one's a buy, and you don't have to look at the other 500,000 stocks. So it's pretty good. But but Catapult was one of the favourites. Both gave MinRes, was stock of the day. It was a long-term buy, but I think the quote that I gave there was, I think they'd be handing out at the AGM, handing out a program of events and rotten fruit to throw at Chris Ellison, which young Ben thought was actually quite funny. He kept on chuckling, so it was. He said, "Yeah, well, maybe they will actually." Apparently, it gets quite fiery that AGM anyway. So yeah, and so.
Are you talking about the
MinRes AGM?
Oh, the MinRes. I thought you were talking about the founding CEO. Wrong company.
I know, but still founding CEO, Chris Ellison.
No, he's still CEO.
Oh yeah, no, but they'll do the same thing. Come on,
Yeah, it's hilarious what they can get away with. But
and strangely enough, the genius move of shifting to a founding CEO, WiseTech had their AGM today. Oh. Surprisingly enough, being in the paper 8 times a day for being an alleged douchebag, doesn't really, and the board being distracted, doesn't really.
Yeah, it's a little bit distracting.
A little bit distracting. So they opened down 15% this morning. Because basically, while they've been dealing with his shitstorm, which is his personal shitstorm of the companies, kind of taken their eye off the ball and not delivered, which they normally do.
That's right. And they missed the project. You said that's not
that's very unlike them. Absolutely. Yeah. No. So, blame the HR department, I suppose.
Exactly. So,
but the big show this week, Nvidia.
Obviously, yeah.
Well, let's leave that for a little bit when we get to the US stocks. But Aussie stocks. So Amcor, which is Australia's biggest yet most unglamorous company because it just makes boxes.
That's it. So, or packaging. Wait,
you're going to give me
I know it's a box pack. It's a box pack pitch.
But a $13 billion acquisition.
Massive, and that's US. Was it US?
No, 8.4 US.
So 8 US, all script as well. Just issuing script to increase. And the thing is with when you're the largest company in the world in any sector, it's actually just easier to buy growth rather than actually try and do it organically. So great.
They did their growth phase 40 years ago.
Exactly. But they're looking at 650 billion in synergies as well. So obviously
million in synergies.
Yeah. So it just means that obviously when so there'll be a few high and middle management fired, and obviously just get synergies that way. That's usually.
No, but there must be some guys with some supreme box expertise in there. They're
good at folding, basically.
They're square. They're brown.
Exactly.
Oh, we've got a white one. But boring is beautiful sometimes.
Exactly. But either way, that's a big one. So it's just another one of those Australian companies that could you don't realise we actually have a lot of companies that are world leaders.
Absolutely.
But obviously, because we're in such a small obscure part of the global economy, people just don't realise. It's kind of like Australia in the Olympics. So we do kick above our weight.
But at CEO level, we've had CEO, News Corp one, CEO of Coca-Cola for many years was there's quite a few. There's maybe a lot of companies in Australia that wish they'd come back.
That's true.
Yeah.
So next one was Accent Group. So one thing I didn't realise with Accent, they're actually Australia's largest footwear retailer.
Yeah, this Hoka things those shoes have gone off the hook. I just thought they were they just tried to do New Balance or something like that.
Like the New Balance, but either way, they took off. But it looks like they got a rise in sales, but the share price fell because of the margins. So it just shows that it's a very tough retail environment out there. You tried to buy something from another retailer, you were surprised how high their markups were and things like that.
Oh no, that was JB Hi-Fi.
Yeah,
we bought these lovely lapel mics we have on for the first time today, which hopefully work well because we're not recording this again. And we bought a bunch of headphones, headsets, and things like that. Amazon and a number of other Australian retailers were 20% cheaper, nearly across the board. And I don't know whether that was timing, but JB Hi-Fi used to be the the cut price specialist.
That's right. And they always match as well. So you'd think that...
Then I don't like that matching thing. If your price isn't low in the first place, I'd rather go with the bloke that offered it down. So
yeah, fair enough. Well, I'll let you talk about Technology One. But Pinnacle, so that's another one. So they raised 400 mil to acquire 2 fund managers.
Well, a quarter of each, though.
Yeah, so... Yeah. But basically, one in London, one in New York, from memory, one in private credit.
Yeah.
So what they are, they're a fund of funds and basically just looking to scale that way. So
yeah, or as I like to call it, fees squared.
Fund of funds or fees of fees.
Yeah, fees of fees. But I looked at, but they do go through the process, I suppose, of vetting those fund managers. Every single one of their fund managers has beaten the index. Yeah. Pretty consistently,
and that's kind of what you want. Like, so if you got guys outperforming, but each one's in a totally different asset class, then it just means that you've got proper diversification.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean,
mind you, pretty much at the moment everything's going up.
Yeah, well, it's pretty easy to look good at the moment.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see when the market actually turns.
Yeah, and obviously Technology One, which is one of my favourites, which I mistakenly said about nearly bloody 18 months to 2 years ago that it was worth a short for a small period because I didn't think they could expand. It was kind of like the goldfish can only grow to the size of its bowl and the execution risk on the UK expansion potentially, and Technology One does have being prone to fall. So I said basically market darlings. There was a few market darlings that got hit. It was around when CSL and ResMed got smoked actually. So it'd be 14 odd months ago, and we did that market darling screen. And I said I'd probably be short it. And every time a result gets released, about 6 people send me a message on Technology One, and they did it again. But look, to be honest, I'm bloody bullish on the thing now because the whole thing was that they had less than 10% market share left to capture in Australia, so they couldn't possibly justify a 50 PE if there wasn't actually enough customers to do that. And now that they're obviously the UK ARR growth was doing really well, up 18, I think it was rose about 20% or whatever. So, but that market's bigger, so I mean this thing could double. There's no reason why it can't double. So if they get that same, but again, then they're going to hit the situation that Xero had, where they dominated the UK. So it's a quite an easy step to go to the UK because it's just old Australia. Well, yeah,
and we are the convicts basically. Yeah.
Well, exactly. So, but going, the mistake may be going to the US because
because then obviously there's
a graveyard of Australian businesses sometimes. I think it's over an 80% failure rate, and because it can be very niche, but
either way
but well done. They
killed it.
They smashed it.
They gapped up on that day, and then I think they powered away as well.
And wherever you think you should buy it, just add 15%, and if you're lucky enough to get it there, then fair enough. But I think we'll be watching that really closely because even if there's a smell that grows at a stronger pace at next earnings,
another re-rate,
it probably goes. Yeah. It probably goes again. So. So you've heard it here first, Twitter people. I've called Technology One a buy, for God's sake. So you'll be guaranteed that the top's in on that one now. But yeah, and run us through MicroStrategy. So,
well, I have been in the Bitcoin space for a long time. And so I've come across Saylor.
Yeah, JT's only actually 18 years of age. He's been trading crypto for 3 years.
Okay, but so Michael Saylor has been extremely bullish Bitcoin from the very start. He had a software company at one stage, and now it's just a Bitcoin holding fund. And what he's actually doing now is that he is issuing his own stock to buy more Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So
it was a stupid amount. What was the cap rate?
21 billion.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I knew it was big, but I was thinking
issued $21 billion worth of MicroStrategy stock to buy more Bitcoin. So now. Yeah, obviously Bitcoin's just knocking on the door of 100, but a lot of it is due to MicroStrategy actually, helping propel it. Because obviously, $21 billion of demand will help push the price up of anything.
Yeah, no,
you didn't realize that number, did you?
I didn't. No, I knew it was big, but I didn't realize it was 21 billion big.
It's enormous, and then
there's a good YouTube clip on it. Basically, he's a pretty funny guy to watch on YouTube because Everyone tries to smash him about how Bitcoin's bullshit. And he just stands there and goes, yep, whatever. We're still buying it. Don't care what you think.
I saw a good tweet of him is that he wishes Charlie Munger was still alive because he thinks that he could have convinced him if he sat down in the room with Charlie Munger. He said he would have convinced Charlie to buy some Bitcoin. And that's Charlie Munger who said Bitcoin is rat poison. So that's how strong his conviction is.
I think he's got more chance of convincing Charlie Munger now than he did when he was alive. That is not a shit, seriously. That,
but it just shows you how bullish he is. That's how convinced he is. The thing with...
He's got yes men around him quite clearly because someone in the office has gone, no, you totally could have convinced him. There's no way.
Well, but what we have to remember is that our whole sort of market is based on belief. If he believes it, then that's what it is. And
Gold investors have been living off that for thousands of years.
So gold has no actual utility except sticking it in a safe. But the thing is, people just put value on it, and it's the same thing with Bitcoin. So I'm not saying go sell it or anything like that, but it's human nature. So he's totally convinced, and that's why he's doubling down, even tripling down, even $21 billion doubling down. It's absolutely monstrous. But my caution is obviously, he's selling his own stock to buy Bitcoin. So, is it really fresh demand coming in to prop it up? Either way, we'll find out. But I think we'll probably cross 100K on Saturday. So anyone that's old school Bitcoin knows that during a bull market, the rallies usually come on the weekends. So.
And just for context, folks, as well, everyone asks us all the time, what do you think about this crypto? Or what do you think about Bitcoin? Or where can Bitcoin go to? In all honesty, anyone who tells you with absolute surety where they think it's going is flatly making it up because it is a new asset class. We have it is 15 years old which is you're not even that's still in the womb version. It is such a small period of time. No one can possibly predict where this is necessarily going to be. Not with any certainty, that's for sure. And look, it is such a sentiment-based thing. And if it's hot, it's hot. So, but with a couple of, as we learned in that with the tokens period, take your profits on the way up.
Things still here.
It's not for me.
Yeah.
It's fun sitting there looking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, where my safe moon was. And I was like, "What? This is why I moved to equities. I like sleep." SpaceX.
The other big US news. So SpaceX is going to. So they're not listing, but they're going to issue some shares at $135 each, which values SpaceX at $210 billion, and that will bring Elon's net worth past $300 billion. So he's done really well, Elon. He's got his SpaceX. He's got his obviously Tesla, the Boring Company. He's got Starlink as well.
And then he did start that whole online payments
Twitter,
thing, PayPal,
Twitter as well, PayPal.
Well, and let's face it, he's been mocked for Twitter, and he's just he must be enjoying the Twitter one. Because he definitely got hit on a bid he didn't want, and then he's just managed to turn it around. But if you could teach a tower to Mr. Miyagi style catch a rocket with tweezers or chopsticks, then that SpaceX just makes how much Boeing and those guys were just ripping the pants out of the US government for NASA was borderline criminal, to be honest.
Well, it's basically the what do you call it, the military complex. It's actually just in space. It's just So, but it's like. You know how these things cost $3 billion? Why don't we consider reusing them potentially? You don't just drive your car to the shopping centre and chuck it in the crusher. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done. So no, look, Elon just can't stop winning at the moment.
That's true. And
he's on fire. So and look, obviously we got the heat map up there. On the week, not a great week for the Mag 7.
No, apart from Tesla.
Well, Tesla was up. Nvidia's flat. Amazon down 7.5. Google down 6. Microsoft down 3. But my little image for the morning report this morning was cyclicals led the market higher, which is a headline that I have not had to write for 2 years. It was a bunch of like really, cheap valued companies that make reasonable money but don't grow sort of woke up and people started to find value. But there was an interesting point from someone on Bloomberg the other day is that even the smallest of rotations out of the Mag 7 into small caps and the mid caps, it will cause so much of a rally because if they sell 5% if they trim 5% of their holdings, it's like buying the entire bloody microcaps sector. Like they could literally just like M&A the whole sector.
That's it.
So I'm going to sell
with change left over.
With change left, yeah. I'll sell 25% of my Mag 7 and I'll buy the Russell 2000. Thank you. And also as well, which we will get to. Actually, we'll get to in a little bit, but. Very, very excited our members dashboard launched this week. Sadly, though, Tesla, when I wrote the recommendation 3.5 weeks ago, was 40% lower.
40?
Yeah, I think so. It rallied 40%. I think it's come off the highs now. That was a touch painful to, and I think Objective Corp, which our friend helped us with, it's rallied 20. We're going to get, this is a very, very clever segue into our next bit. Which I'm going to do is trade of the week. We're going to do early, which was Findi, which you, JT, you absolute legend. That was our small caps pick. When was that exactly? It was
21st of August.
Exactly 1 month ago.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, in 22 trading days from that day, and you can see the chart here. Nailed it. Basically, we bought. It did not trade below our price again. Actually, it was retested once, and then we had an $8 price target. We looked at each other that day and went, "Oh, it's at $7.50. We won't have to bother about it today." And then, bing, the alert goes off, and it was at $8. So, and now it's dropped 10% lower. So, mate, nice work.
So the thing with Findi though is that longer term, obviously, I still think it goes higher. So I think. What's it? Maybe 350, maybe 400 mil market cap.
When I did the call, it was the day that it was the day before it was at $8.
Yeah.
And I said sell it, trim at $8. So it's dropped. It's rallied 10% through $8 and then back 10%. I think on that where it is now, it's 370 mil.
Okay. So my call is that it still goes to $1 billion market cap.
I agree.
Before it lists on, they've got an IPO ready for the second half of 26, so that's still a year and a half away.
Yeah.
But I still think it's got more to go from here.
Well, as you can see here with the charts for the people who are watching on the vodcast, for those of you who haven't, there's a link where you can have a bit of a look around the new members dashboard. But we've got these smart chart levels where basically we've got a buy level, an add level on the down. So these are all for really, long-term high conviction stocks. Mm-hmm. There's about 50 of them on the site in about 5 different categories. Income growth, small caps, mining stocks. And there's quite a clever thing with the mining stocks as well, where it is in the Lassonde curve with the mine lives and things, which is quite often hard to find. And, obviously tells you when to maybe avoid being in it. But as you can see there, we set those buy and add zones there, the light green and the green. Obviously, buy is the light green, dark green is the add, average. And then that trim zone, and even for the more mature ASX 200 stocks, we actually do have a sell zone because for the likes of something like CSL or BHP, when you know that they're not going to continue to go. But for these guys in the small caps and the growth space, we only really have a trim level. It could be more rebalancing or whatever. But that chart was done when you did the recommendation. It gives you that pre-preparation to know where you should be maybe taking some off the table.
And the key with all of that is that when you plan ahead, or before the prices actually get there, you're doing things at your most objective because you don't have skin in the game. You don't have any cognitive bias, or basically you can actually see it with a clear mind, and that's why we do these trade plans. Have no position in the stock, look at it objectively, set it out, and then once you put some money in, that's where your judgment gets clouded, and then
that's where the risk management plans, which we've got which worked really well for WiseTech, have worked really well for Prometheus as well, because we've still got that, and I would have sold the whole lot at probably $150. It's now at 223 or 225 today at a new record high. We also bought back WiseTech, and then we bought more today on weakness as well. And it sort of rocketed up. So that pre-planning, but you know, from our trading backgrounds and our investing our own money backgrounds, like we learnt the value of this the hard way, and we're really just bringing these. So we're going to update these on a weekly basis. We don't want to be updating them on a daily basis or anything. We don't, not too much tinkering, but it really will give you the ability to, like the CSL one's a great example of the active management where we've made 63 odd % in a stock that's gone nowhere for 4 years.
Yeah, and you know, just you got to explain to them it is active, but it's not day
Yeah,
trading.
but it's like it's 6 trades in 4 years.
Yeah,
like, but you know, it's if you and obviously, but you know, we'll be able to push a notification or an email or whatever,
or pre-warn them as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, and then one of the biggest bits of feedback we get from people is, I don't know when to sell, which, you know,
Which makes sense because, like, you know, everyone wants to get into the stock market. Yeah. And once you're in there, it's like, what do I do? Because I never planned for it. You know, basically, I was just told to buy, or you know, I had the hunch to buy something. Great, but what do I do now?
Yeah. So that's been a lot of hard work. I'm going to enjoy.
Yeah. So if you want to have a look at it, members dashboard.
Yeah. So we will chuck we'll chuck a link. I'll work out how to put it in the YouTube or something like that. And yeah, have a look. But yeah, a lot of hard work. If it wasn't for the bloody market outlook I've got to do, I'd almost have a weekend off. So I did skip a couple of slides there. We're on to commodities and FX now. We did skip ahead, but I thought that segue was too good to resist.
So for me, the standout obviously is gold again. Gold got down to under 25.50, but it's just bounced 4 days in a row and it's at 26.70. Silver, copper, not the bounce hasn't been as pronounced, kind of still lagging there. If they do dip, there is some good support there. Uranium, solid. Obviously, the news last week with Russia banning exports has continued, and we've seen a slow rise, which is nice. And the other one, obviously, Bitcoin. I think it's nudging on 98, 99, depending on which exchange you look.
Yeah, there's no way it doesn't trade 100.
Yeah, so like, as I said, like,
so close now.
It trades 100 this weekend. So usually Bitcoin rallies on usually Saturday night in Sydney.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it's just one of the things I've noticed over the years. During bull markets, it does rally on Saturdays, and obviously during bear markets, Saturdays are no good for it. Obviously, there could be just less liquidity on the weekends, obviously, and they can just push the market around. And the Dixie, the dollar index, is back at that 107. So I think that if it keeps pushing higher, that and the bond yields could be one thing that could pause the equity rally, but so far it hasn't affected. But that's commodities and FX.
And take note, folks, Captain Bull over here. I think that's the first time you've started to second guess the rally.
No, I didn't. I'm not second guessing it. I'm just saying it could be.
Sorry, even go close to second guessing it. As as the resident permabull out there myself, I'm very sensitive to when that.
True.
When
so economy and politics. I will take a couple of minutes here to. So this popped up in my Twitter feed overnight. I immediately put it into our traders chat to chat about it with the boys. But China has issued US dollar bonds in Saudi Arabia. So if anyone understands the petrodollar system, this is a massive shot across the bow. So China is basically saying, hey, you guys are printing dollars, we can do the same thing. And like I will actually maybe write an article about this.
I know, we're definitely doing a post on that one.
And I will talk about it a bit more on the J Trader coming up. But this is small right now, but I just wanted to be one of the first to actually highlight this is actually a big development if it continues from here. Because I remember maybe about a year ago, I talked about the oil settling in yuan.
Yeah.
No one really cared about it, but here we are. I think something like 15% of oil is settled in yuan now. So that's taken a big chunk out of that market. So it just shows that even though US, everyone talks about de-dollarization, I have been saying for a long time, we're not going to get off the US dollar. It's more about who's going to fund the US government's debt. That's the problem here, is that China's basically saying, hey, who would you rather lend money to? China or US? And if you look at balance sheets, I mean, like obviously, both countries have their problems, but you're talking about a nation
Mate.
that just makes everything and has a surplus of dollars.
Afterpay wouldn't give the US a line of credit if it was a person.
Exactly right. But that's just it's the first shot across the bow. Very small right now. I'm not saying the whole thing's going to collapse, but it is quite a big thing.
It is quite a big thing, and do yourselves a favour. We will write a blog post on it or an education post on it because it is important. It's not going to move markets, but it's also very bloody confusing. And it's this podcast will be an hour and a half if we talk too much about it. But I do. We may even do a small little a mini pod on it, something like that, because it's like the yen carry trade and things like that. There are certain things that obviously we understand because we're sitting here every day analysing it. But for the folks at home, like we don't, we're in the game of doing the opposite of bamboozling people. We want you to understand it. So just give us some time, and we'll make sure you've got that. Because the education section on the website's been. I think there's about 50 odd articles on there now, and particularly on some good mining stuff as well. I managed to pull together the world's longest. Thank God for AI. The world's longest mining terms dictionary. I think there's 700 entries. I didn't write it. I'm just saying I don't even understand 350 of it, of the 700 words. But look, it's quite comprehensive with this website upgrade.
Yeah, and the other bit of news is that Russia launched one of these.
It's an intercontinental ballistic missile.
Exactly. So I remember
or they could just say it's just a bigger missile.
Yeah. But the thing was, I remember at the beginning of Russia's invasion, they just talked about how inept the Russian army were and things like that. Obviously, that was US's propaganda because obviously I'm not following the news on the Russian side, but they were like Russia couldn't even launch a missile if they could, and basically Russia said, "Is that what you think?"
But one of the comments that came out as well was they trotted out one of the ministers. It was a lady, actually, which I thought was a bit odd. I didn't think they had female politicians. But she said, basically, the obvious target is a US military base in Poland. Because the poor old Poland's been put in a horrible situation where the US has gone, oi, can you just make sure that no missiles come over the top of you into Ukraine? And they've gone, they're literally just... Like they're the little nerdy kid trying to break up two big bullies from fighting. Like
that's it.
And then it's only been 60 years since the last time someone rolled over the top of them. So they're not having a lot of fun. I wouldn't have thought.
Well, either way,
Taiwan signed a $350 million arms buy from the US.
Okay.
So we were worried about you obviously get to speculate about potential black swans. Taiwanese blockade would probably mean that the stock market drops about 50% because
the Mag 7
drops. The Mag 7 will probably just drop. Nvidia would drop about probably 90% because 90% of its chips are made in one factory in Taiwan. But obviously they're trying to beef up security, and there was an observation on Twitter the other day from someone I follow who was in a cafe in Taiwan. And he said it was just the whole cafe was filled with G.I. Joes, these big blokes who were there's and Taiwan's probably just going, we might just leave our factory here because we know that we get warships if we leave our factory here. Nvidia keeps going, we'll make them in the US, we'll make them in the TSMC's like, nah. It'd be like giving away your only leverage, basically. So and obviously Kramer of the Week goes to Peter Schiff, who is like Charlie Munger, a Bitcoin hater.
Yep.
And he's probably the loudest voice in the room for Bitcoin hating. So he gets Kramer of the Week. Kramer himself has actually been calling the shorts in Nvidia stupid. Let's see how that one plays out.
Early days, but obviously there was that initial dip. But on the earnings, it gapped down lower, but then I think it closed down 0.1 or something.
For the major funds, let's face it, it's sitting at a record high here right now. If you can get another weekly high candle, particularly on earnings, you're probably going to try and support it, I would have thought. A little bit of month-end fudging into Thanksgiving as well, because it'll be thin markets next week.
Thin markets next week. So
Turkey Day next week.
So I did see that it was slightly greedy.
Yep.
I saw 58. I think I was a little bit bearish last week, and the markets have just basically kept rallying.
Yeah.
What are you thinking next week? Thin markets, Thanksgiving. It can't go down, can it?
I don't think it goes anywhere, but it definitely won't go down because it's just there won't be. You need like this thing's had hurricanes. The four horsemen of the apocalypse turned up right now. The stock market would probably rally. Like
Exactly.
you should have seen like
Because they might need AI.
Putin has basically lowered the threshold for him being able to authorise a nuclear strike this week.
And sent out new missiles.
And sent out new missiles. Yeah, that was the whole point of that conversation, actually. And the market dipped 1% in the European session and finished 1.5% higher in the US session.
The buy the dippers have got control of this market. The momentum algos, they've got control. So, don't fight it.
And my favourite investment thesis of the week was... always buy the dip on the threat of nuclear war, because either it gets resolved and the stock market goes back up, or you're not going to be worried about your stocks because we're all going to be dead. So I couldn't help but laugh. I think someone was relatively serious when they were saying that. But anyway, Twitter's a wonderful place. But yeah, so. I don't know whether we'll do the podcast next week, to be honest, because Thanksgiving markets are shut Thursday and Friday. And we have our Christmas party on Thursday as well, and Thursday's going to be a little bit too early. I'm going to go out on a limb and say episode 46 is going to be delayed by a week, and we are going to start producing a few bits of members content as well, like our investment committee on a monthly basis. If you want any more detailed analysis of the stuff we're doing in-house, because we really would like to keep this one, fairly open and not be a continual sort of us pitching. We can just talk about markets. So yeah, we can watch out for that. But there'll be no podcast next week or vodcast next week. You'll have to.
Well, see you in a couple of weeks' time, basically.
Send your complaints to kai.chan at MP. Folks, well, look, have a good turkey week and enjoy your Black Friday shopping and all that sort of thing. And we will chat with you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, see you then. Bye.